We're now on the next phase of our journey, planning for discharge from inpatient rehab. Now, I know what you're thinking, but you just got there. Yes, in the last video, we talked about how we finally made it to Laurel Place, the Inpatient Stroke Rehab Care Unit. And from the minute we arrived, we started settling in and making ourselves at home. But the rehab team doesn't see it that way. From the minute that we arrive, they start assessing and coming up with a plan to get us out and back home as soon as possible. Because remember, the goal of rehab is to help the patient get to a certain level of independence so that they can get back home and back into their communities. I never asked anyone how long they expected us to be there because I was too afraid to rock the boat. But from very early on, they start having conversations with you about this to mentally prepare you for discharge. So if you are at an inpatient rehab hospital right now, don't get too comfortable because the goal is to get you home as soon as possible, as scary as that sounds. Our discharge from Laurel Place went like this. First, family meeting. This is where the patient, the caregivers, and the rehab team get together for a formal meeting. This part is really important. So if you are a caregiver, make sure that you are present and prepared with a list of questions. If you need someone there to support you, or if you need a translator, make sure that they are present as well. The rehab team included the doctor, the PT, the OT, and the SLP. I think that the social worker usually attends this meeting as well, but on this particular day, she was not available. The doctor started the meeting summarizing the type of stroke, the resulting deficits, where Joshua is now medically speaking, and things to do, things not to do, and things to watch out for. And then they went around the table and each of the therapists summarized where Joshua was when he first arrived, what they worked on, they highlighted his progress, and then gave some instructions for the next steps, what he needs to work on afterwards. In physical therapy, the goal was to get him moving again, to get him up, walking, and up and down the stairs safely. And during that time, they were so happy to see the amazing progress that he had made. Now, with speech therapy, this was the most difficult part. Joshua had global aphasia, which means that he lost the ability to read, to write, to understand, and to speak. Very early on, the speech language therapist asked me to fill in some information so that she could get to know Joshua on a personal level. She wanted to know the names of all the family members, his hobbies, his likes, his dislikes, and she used that information to personalize his learning plan, to tap into information that's meaningful for him. So during one of the earlier sessions, I was a part of that. The sentence that she wanted him to say went like this: I have 3 children, Jennifer, Justin, and Bethany. Now it sounds simple enough, but for a person with aphasia, it is very, very difficult. It took the entire session, and although there was improvement, at the end, he still couldn't say it with fluency. But I could see how hard he was trying, and it was heartbreaking to see him struggle to say his own children's names. So with speech therapy, she went over, the type of aphasia that he has, what they worked on, the progress that they've made, and what he needs to work on going forward. Occupational therapy. Now this one is really tricky because it's difficult to uncover what he knows and what he doesn't know because of his lack of ability to communicate. So they did a lot of assessments to try to uncover what the deficits were. And it's difficult to pinpoint. See, with physical therapy, you can see, oh, he has a hard time lifting up his right arm, or he lacks a lot of strength in his right arm or his right leg. But with cognitive deficits, it's very difficult to see that. So there were a lot of issues and a lot of underlying deficits related to reasoning and problem solving and step-by-step sequence and memory and So many other things. In one of the OT sessions, Joshua was asked to boil a pot of noodles to make some pasta. Now, Joshua cooks and he's good at it and he enjoys it. So, of course, he knows how to boil pasta, but he didn't at that time. He didn't know the steps that were involved, and he wasn't able to choose the correct utensil to stir the noodles in the pot. Now, when I heard about this, I was just crushed because I thought it was mostly the speech that was affected, but there were so many underlying cognitive abilities that were damaged by this stroke. So at the end of the day, the recommendation from the stroke team was this. They recommended that he continue with therapy at Surrey Memorial Hospital on an outpatient basis. They didn't think he needed physical therapy anymore, which is true, but the focus would be on speech language therapy and occupational therapy on an outpatient basis. And at the end of the meeting, I had plenty of time to ask my questions and have further discussion about the next steps in his care. What I really appreciated the most about that meeting was the fact that the doctor and the therapist, they all looked at Joshua and spoke to him. Of course, they knew he had global aphasia. Of course, they knew that he didn't understand most of what was being said to him, but they spoke to him. They looked at him, they slowed down their pace, they lowered their voice, speaking in a very calm, quiet manner. Because people with aphasia, they lose their words, not their intellect. They still have their intellect and they have their emotions and their feelings. So during that meeting, when they nodded, he nodded. When they smiled, he smiled. When they laughed, he laughed. So he was very much a part of the meeting. The next step of the discharge process is paperwork. Lots and lots of paperwork. So they prepared this binder for me. Look, I still have it. And they filled it with a lot of resources and information. And although I prefer paper to an electronic file, this binder was so incredibly overwhelming for me. So I didn't look at it right away. I put it away in a safe spot. And later, when I had some time to breathe, I took it out and I started going through all the paperwork one at a time. Now, if they were to give me a QR code or a website and say, hey, check out this community program or this after stroke program, I would never do it because if I don't see it, I'll forget about it. So it was really helpful having this binder and having all the papers just very nicely organized for me. So this was really, really good. At this point, before you get discharged, your conversations and communication with the social worker is absolutely critical. They're there to help you and to provide you with the resources that you need because you don't know what you don't know and you don't know what services are out there. So you need to use that time to get as much information as possible. So make a list of everything you need and make an appointment with a social worker. My top concern was transportation. If I'm working full time and Joshua can't drive, how is he going to even get to his outpatient therapy? The social worker helped me apply for HandyDart, which is a personalized transportation service for people with disabilities. A lot of these services, they have to be referred and signed off by a health professional. So don't wait to get this all done after you go home. Get it all done while you are still there. A handicap parking pass. This is a pass that allows you to park at designated parking spots that are much closer to the entrance of a building. The social worker can help you with this as well. We had a temporary 3-month handicap parking pass that was really helpful for us at the beginning because we had so many doctor's appointments to attend during the winter months. Medical records. Make sure that you get a copy of the medical records and the medications that your stroke survivor is currently taking. And if you are planning on applying for EI sickness or CPP disability, there are specific forms that need to be filled out and signed by the doctor. So make sure you get all of that prepared before discharge. They will also give you something like this. It's called a green sleeve, and you're supposed to put it on your refrigerator because there's magnets on the back. So in case of an emergency, if you were to call 911, the paramedics will know to take this down and take this to the hospital with you. It has a list of your medical record and the medications you are currently taking. Now here's what you need to do before discharge day. There is so much to be done, but these are the essentials. Family doctor. It's not surprising to know that there are a lot of Canadians who don't have a family doctor or primary care physician, but it's imperative that your stroke survivor has one. So if you don't have one, go find one right now and make an appointment for your follow-up. This primary care physician is going to be the key person for your medication, your follow-up care, and referrals to specialists down the road. Next, prepare your home. Make sure that your home is clean, well organized, and decluttered of anything that might become a potential threat. For us, we just moved into this house a week and a half before my husband's stroke. So we still had a lot of tools, box cutters, a ladder around, and we had to make sure that we put them all away and that there wasn't anything on the floor where my husband could possibly trip. In addition, you want to make sure that you do your groceries and laundry and any other household chores before the discharge day. Because there's so much to do on that day, you want to make sure that your attention is focused towards your stroke survivor who has just come home. Now, the rest it's not essential, but it would be really helpful if 1 or 2 days before the discharge day, if you bring home as much as you can from the hospital. So if there's extra shoes or clothes or any other personal items, bring it home in advance, because on that discharge day, there is so much going on and you want to simplify things as much as possible. Now, on the day that my husband was discharged from Laurel Place, we could not have asked for a more beautiful day. Originally, it was just going to be myself and my daughter Jennifer to go pick up her dad and bring him home. But the night before, we found out that Justin's classes were canceled on Friday and Bethany's morning classes were canceled. So we were all able to go and pick up dad and bring him home. And before we left, we went around and said goodbye to the new friends that we had made at Laurel Place. And we went around to thank all the therapists and the nurses there. So it was the most perfect day for us. In the next video, I will talk about how we managed at home and all the ups and downs that we had endured. But for now, I just want to remember this perfect day.